Well, man, thank you so much. Honestly, super, super excited. Like I said to you, I've been binge watching your content over the last weekend, in particular. I think I came across your Instagram profile a couple months ago. I saw that first video of yours, and I must have watched it
Yeah.
also like 20, 30 times. So,
Yeah.
no, 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 seriously. I think the main thing that I want to focus on today, in particular, is that you've told your amazing story over and over again on these great podcasts, and I would really like to focus on, in particular, today. Now that you're coaching people, what do you actually focus on? How do you work with really like the average Joe, pretty
Yeah.
much, who's
Mhm.
is try to better their life, based on this incredible story that you have. But of course, first of all, let us know who you are. What's your background? You have, again, a really, really incredible story. And then in particular, like I said, what are you doing today?
Yeah. So I'll give you the 30,000 foot overview. So was a Navy SEAL, had a 7-year career there, had some legal troubles, made some mistakes, all self induced. Deployed, went to Iraq, Yemen, and we did some stuff down in Mexico. Was a sniper, JTAC, communication specialist, advent laden specialist. Just people know some of those qualifications. And then I had some legal troubles. So I had some pretty serious charges, some fights, some things like that. And so I was kicked out. It was actually a failed steroid test, which was actually what kicked me out. So I took a general discharge, and then I was working in the civilian world, snacking bad habits, measures of success from the outside, but I was in chaos internally. Just, I would have all these external things to kind of touch and point to so I could lie to myself, really, and say I was okay. And then nobody else could tell me anything. That was the real problem, because I was like, well, it's working, whatever I'm doing. But my world came crashing down. I had stacked an opiate habit, an Adderall habit, a Xanax habit, alcohol, weed, daily. So that was just a lot of stuff, right? If success is subtractive, that's definitely not the way to go about it. And then I ended up suicidal in my truck for a few days, realizing that I had lost everything and decided to make a big change. I say the authentic voice of God spoke to me and said, you're being a huge pussy. Time to change it up. And I joined the French Foreign Legion, where I spent pretty much the last half decade fighting for France, pour la France, and became the only Navy SEAL to be a French Foreign Legionnaire on record. So that was my redemption arc. And while there, learned that there was no more external validation that could make me feel good, because while I was in that barracks room, I realized I still wasn't happy and fulfilled. So I started to, just out of need, strong desire, I wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel fulfilled. So I just started to read Stoic philosophy, look at, what were the samurais doing? What were the Greeks doing? What are the Tibetan monks doing? What are all these guys doing for internal wellness and clarity? Started compacting all these pieces, and that's what we'll kind of get into, Dennis, is kind of what that looked like, and building myself my own daily blueprint, my own non-negotiable daily blueprint, and then started to hit it on repeat, and I started to have good days every day, and I noticed my clarity was up, my frequency was good, my overall positive optimism was strong, and that's what I knew I was onto something. And it wasn't complicated answers. The answers were very simple, but they needed to be executed with ruthless tenacity. That was really what I came to understand, is that if I could be happy in the Foreign Legion, a very challenging institution, that I could be happy anywhere. Is it always perfect? No. Right? But it's a lot better than it would be or was. So that's a little bit of my story, Dennis, and for people who are watching.
Yeah, again, I recommend everyone to watch some of the podcasts that you've been on. How you really lay out the entire story. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think again, you're a fantastic storyteller. One of the things that you said on one of these pods was actually, you said, I stopped trying to find happiness in the same places I've lost it. So you kind of said, I crossed that bridge because going back was too painful.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look back at your track record, for all of us watching, like, what are the things that cause you shame and regret? What are the things that keep bringing you to the same place? What are the things that keep causing lots of destruction in our lives? Identify them. We all have different things. Some of us have the same thing. And there's a common denominator of pain. It's what bonds us all together. We all understand it because we've all been there. That's why the story resonates. It's because nobody's immune from it. Not one person walking this fucking planet is immune from that pain of self-induced sabotage. Nobody, right? Nobody can do to us what we do to ourselves. That's the truth. And when I started to understand that I had to remove those things, and that success was definitely subtracted for me. And so when I started to remove a lot of the things, the daily stuff, right? The habitual things, the daily things that were just bolting on to me like barnacles. They're just bolting on, and things started to get a lot more clear. And that friction of, and also just in rooted daily habits, which I'll dive into more, but those rooted daily habits, once I hit them on repeat enough, and it was just automatic, not doing them was causing me, was more painful, was more difficult than just being locked on. The new baseline was locked on. That's when the game flipped and the script flipped and things got much more aligned and started falling into place.
I think one of the fascinating things about your story when you talk about, what you did in the past, in a way, it seems so far away from most of us, the kind of life that you have lived. But I feel at the same time, the way that you're obviously being very candid about it, but also the way that you're describing it it's very relatable from a human
Yeah.
perspective, right? Where you basically say, like, we all have these feelings, but we feel, you said this also, that we think we have this bigger potential, and we kind of we just cannot really grasp it, and it's you basically making the case, rightfully so, about these habits. And I think David Goggins probably opened up opened up a lot of people to this. But you've really, as you just mentioned, you've kind of found your own way, your own blueprint for it. So
Yeah.
tell us about it, how that looks like, and also why you getting up at 2:15 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. So it's everybody understands that, like, you don't have to go be a Navy SEAL or some special operator or foreign Legionnaire to understand that we hit these low points and these ruts. And why I think my message hits with people is they go, oh, this guy. I kind of thought special operators and stuff were immune from these type of things. Not the case, right? Not the case. Quite often not. We're more human, more pain, right? A lot of the guys I know, they're just dudes, right? That's one piece. Is just normal guys. And what I think had been lacking is because you got a lot of big names, right? Special operators, SEAL stuff that are on, but not a lot of them share their pain and their fuck ups, right? You don't see a lot of that. You see, okay, get up, be hard, take the stairs, right? All this stuff, but it's not as relatable because they're not telling about all the painful weak moments, right? The weak moments. That's really all I care about because that's the only places we learn. Right? It's not when you're some bravado trying to be tough. Like, yeah, I get that. There's a piece of it, but it's a fraction, right? That's a fraction. So my what my daily blueprint entails, well, it started in a very simple way. I just saw what are all these guys? I looked at the samurai, like the precepts, the Dakota, the 21 precepts of the samurai. They're talking rise at 4, train, wash, retire at dusk. Simple, right?
Mm.
The Spartans, the Greeks, right? All these, they call it the hour of the gods, 3 to 4. Right? It's not always 2:15, right? But about my time falls usually about 3 to 4 ish. That's really where I like. That's the sweet spot for me. Sometimes 2 gets a little bit froggy, right? It gets a little powerful. So the point of it is there's less friction in the atmosphere, right? There's less things going on. The 18 wheeler's not going on. The people aren't up. The animals aren't up. There's less friction in the atmosphere. So you're going to get more clarity. I don't know what people's beliefs are, but I believe in God. I believe in a guiding force, right? Not some man in the sky, but an amorphic, all-encompassing, all-one type of energy, right? That kind of guides us in a particular area. And that is beaming into all of us. Why do you think the message resonates? It's because we all hear the same shit. It's not new. For millennia, since the beginning of time, the cavemen were hearing the same shit, right? They got guiding principles in the right way to live. Now, it's impossible to hear that. This thing on, the TV on, with the kids yelling. You're distracted. Simple as that. You're driving in the car. It's just too much going on. So that allocated time to where you can really get clear on your path, on your vision, on what your destiny is. Because your destiny absolutely whispers to you. It doesn't shout. It doesn't shout at you. So you're not going to hear it. So I was like, okay, I got to get up early. Also, just in my own proof, and when I thought back in times in my life when I was more content, I was getting up early on a consistent basis. So it was very easy to make that switch. Now I was in the Foreign Legion. We're already getting up early. But it was like up, shower, chaos, all these things, people running everywhere. I was like, I got to get up real early. So if the wake up time was 5, I was getting up at 3:30. So because I was trying to go through a certain process. Right now, I was the crazy tattooed American doing push-ups in the fucking bathroom in a barracks room, which was not like ideal. It's cold. It's mean. People are mad I'm up. And it wasn't like everyone's championing this. I had to fight through it. What the hell are you doing type thing? But I knew I needed it because I felt a lot better. So that was the first piece, was that wake up time, and then getting a good morning process of not some 2-hour biohacking bullshit, right? But a time to reflect, time to get some caffeine in you, a time to visualize, a time for some movement. Those are the basic principles involved in that.
And then how do you? Because I think one of the things that people struggle with when it comes to habits is I assume you've read James Clear's Atomic Habits, or you know at least of the book what it
Yeah, I
stands
know.
for.
Yep, I know some of the
Yeah.
principles in it.
Yeah. So what is your approach when you work with people who are saying, well, I'm aware of some of these things. I shouldn't be smoking. I shouldn't be drinking. I shouldn't be should be eating a clean diet. I should hit the gym. But sort of like like you said, you get caught up in the rut. You have the phone. You have the quick gratification. You have the dopamine hit. So it's just so easy, right? So
Yeah,
how do you work with people to actually do something, maybe not even get up at 3 or 4, but sort of find their own version of that, where they feel, okay, like I'm
yeah,
challenging myself and I realize, oh, that's actually doing me pretty good.
yeah, Dennis. That's a good question. That's actually well said, because you're right. Pushing 3 o'clock in the morning on everybody, it's not going to work. It's just not. It's not going to translate, because some people aren't there yet. They're not there in their journey. So how do I get this ball rolling? Incremental improvements, incremental, incremental tightening of the dial, because momentum begets momentum. I need to get people on a win, right? And now the morning piece is good. So I ask them some questions. What time are you getting up right now? Right? Are you getting up consistently? Okay, they gave me their rundown. If they're getting up at 9 or 8, I'm like, all right, getting up at 3, you're gonna feel drunk for you're so off.
Yeah.
Could you do it? Yeah, but I go, okay, well, let's start phasing it. I'm all about incremental, right? Because it's really not about the end state. It's about knowing psychologically you're in the process of progress. That is the game. That's the game for everybody at every level. To keep that euphoric feeling of growth, you have to be improving incrementally, right? It's never some fixed state. So it doesn't matter where you're at. If they're starting that, and then I go, okay, set it an hour earlier, set it an hour earlier, set it an hour earlier. Then guess what? Now they're up a little earlier. Now they're feeling better about themselves, right? They're like, okay, I said I was going to do it. Now I push it and I push it. I try to get people around 5 or 4 if I can. But some people, brought the 5. It depends on their
Wow.
schedule. And that's when, now to kind of the, not just wake up time, but habits, because people say, yeah, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. Well, to know and not do is not to know. That's the bottom line. Right? It means you don't know. So I identify what they are really need improvement on. Is it their food? Normally, it's everything. So I say, okay, well, do you want to do this or not? It's all it comes down to is really a decision. Do you fucking want to improve or not? If you don't, then okay, stay doing what you're doing. It's fine. So there's no skin off my nose. I want to improve. I'll help you improve, but I can't make a horse drink. Right?
Yeah.
It's let's make the decision. So the actual psychology of it, which is what you're asking, is how do I get people to change? I make them make the decision. It's not me dictating. I don't tell them what to do. I show them where to look to find the answer. That's because I can't
Right.
say, hey, do this and do that. That will only last 2 seconds because that I need you to go. So I need to root it to a deeper problem. Now, do you want to be better for your kids or not? Do you want to set a good example? Right? Okay. Do you want to set a good example for your community, right? Or whatever is the capacity, or be a good leader in your business? If you don't, then fuck off, then fine. Right? That's all good. But at least be clear on what you're all about. Because then at least you're honest. Then at least you're honest. And you might be unaligned because that's not really your divine self, right? And also there's another piece. Because making that decision requires something. It requires them to really see clearly what they want. Okay, well, so visualization is a big piece of, I didn't really hit on that. Visualization is a big piece
Mm.
of what I coach for morning process. Allow them to see what is your end goal, right? Like, it's not really a goal, but what is that further down the path vision of your 10.0 self? What does that look like? Do you have a wife, kids, and a white picket fence? Man, or do you live on the beach in a fucking teepee? Right? Because it's success looks different things to people. So I need to get them clear. But guess what? No matter what, getting there is going to require some discipline and being in better shape. The bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Nobody sees themselves less disciplined and fatter and broker. Nobody. It doesn't exist. So once they start seeing that, then their subconscious self, like Bruce Lee said, will start to really understand it. It starts
Right.
to see and solve problems in the background. So that's a little bit of the kind of unraveling of the onion, Dennis.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. In particular, where you say you have to align it to something that's actually a personal goal of yours. Could be anything. I had my therapist on last week. Really, really amazing woman and an episode, and she was talking about one of the mistakes that people do in therapy in this case is that they just come and they have this bag of issues and they know these things about their life. But the question for her is like, okay, like where are you stuck in life right now? Certainly, let's kind of take it from there, right? And I guess for you, it's kind of similar, where people kind of know, they feel stuck in a certain area, and you just kind of like you said, like an onion, you kind of start peeling it apart, and then but you define this bigger why. And I think that was so. I worked for a coaching company before, so I also been working with coaches before. And one of the things you learn also is like if you don't, a lot of people have never done that. They think they have that, but then when you actually
Yeah.
sit down with someone like yourself and you get to write it down, it's like you almost get the permission, and you've never done, and you realize it's not just going to come. It's like, oh man, I
Yeah.
don't know, I've never thought about it before, right? And I think Nietzsche said this very well. He said at one point, everyone who has a why is endures anyhow. And I would
Yeah.
almost say like it's kind of similar for you, right? Where you help them define that, and then you work towards it.
Yeah. That is very well said, and it's exactly right. Right. If the why is strong enough, the how is simple. Right. I think Jim Rohn says a version of that. And it's painting yourself into this proverbial corner. Like if I don't do this, right, then something right grave. Like if I don't do this, my kids aren't gonna see me in the way I want them to see me. Like a powerful why. Like I have to do this to set that good example. Man, it could be life or death. In some of my clients, it's that case, right? Getting their health correct, or their doctor told them, like, hey, man, you don't have long to live here. That's a
Mm.
strong why. And then when people that rooted reason, man, it's impressive what we can get done when we have to. Now, do you really have to? No. But when you've told yourself the story that you have to, it's very simple. And also, it's getting people the self-worth back over time. Because a lot of times all of these incorrect acts and habits and thought processes and self-talk and stuff, which I'll get into too, which is a major piece. It's these rooted underlying things that we're not even conscious of, that we're thinking poorly about ourselves, we're talking poorly to ourselves, and all these things. And once the consciousness starts to become raised, and I go, okay, listen to how you're thinking about yourself. And they go, okay, but why? It's because they haven't been doing the right thing. So of course their self-worth's going to be shit. Of course they're going to be talking to yourself because you're literally out of alignment. So it's your anxiety is being created because you're stacking karmic debt on yourself by not living your best life. So it makes sense. Now, when they start to switch it, the mind doesn't catch up yet. It delays, which I notice. So it's like this delay because those habitual pathways of how we've spoken to ourselves are decades old. So it's like, okay, I go, hey man, make sure you're telling yourself when you're doing these things, hey man, when that negative self-talk, intrusive thoughts start to creep in, no, I'm good. I'm back on the path. I was off, but now I'm on. Right? I'm good, man. I got this handled. Even out loud if you have to. Because just like anything else, strong self-talk is a skill set. It's an absolute skill set. It does not come naturally. You're not just going to fall into this positive frame of mind all the time. So be deliberate about it. And then it might feel awkward. And I tell people, man, think about how weird it is that speaking positively to yourself feels awkward. That's how you know it's wrong. And then once I get people in that rhythm
Yeah.
and proving it with action, correct, accurate action, getting up early, tracking their macros, the empowerment starts to come back. So if I could boil it all down, Dennis, it's like, what if someone say, what's your whole mission? Empowerment, 1,000%. Because empowered people are better people. Our empowered people are positive people. Empowered people are motivated and also not dangerous, right? Weak, dangerous people. That's where a lot of the issues we have in society are from people feeling just not empowered. So once they start to feel better and look better, okay, and then we can start tightening more, and we can start tightening more and tightening more. And then it turns into this, this boa constrictor on the day of efficiency.
I think I want to go back to the redemption arc that you mentioned at the beginning, because you made this clip, I think, a couple of days ago. It's a really amazing video where you also talk about that, right? And a lot of people think, well, if only I become a millionaire, if only I do X, Y, and Z, sleep with X many women or whatever it is, and then I finally feel like I got it. And then you've done, you've had this incredible life, you've had these successes that you also talked about, also in business. And then you said it wasn't the right thing. It wasn't enough. You can, and a lot of people have talked about this, right? Like Jim Carrey is saying at one point, I wish people's dreams would come true, so they realize it's not everything. And then you found that fulfillment as you were doing, stacking up these habits.
Yeah. Yes, because your level of success will never exceed your level of self-development. It won't. And if it does, or it does, it won't last long. It won't last long as you see people win the lottery or whatever, right? Success or whatever that, topical reason is, because they haven't rooted the daily habits and then self-worth. The self-worth comes from the work. And when you are a confident person with nothing, that's a powerful person. When you are confident and feel worthy just off daily habits, man, I was in the Foreign Legion making $1,500 a month, happiest I had ever been in my life. That's when I knew I was on a good path, because I was perfectly clear on all my progression, my physical progression, my professional progression, because I knew I wanted to get into coaching stuff, but I was like, none of it mattered. How do you coach anybody on anything if you're not good, right? Now, nobody's ever 100% good. That's also the other benefit, because, man, you still have to be dealing with things so you can actually be relatable. If you're floating on a cloud of perfection, you can't help anybody. That's the truth. So you still have to have some struggle and some growth and some friction. But that was an amazing feeling, because I knew I wanted to give that to somebody. I deal with very successful people. I also deal with people who are trying to get living out of their car. And both are dealing with pain, the same pain, which I'm fascinated by. Why though? Both of their habits are shit. That's it. That's the similar thing. And I deal with high level CEO business owners and guys with no money who are just trying to invest in themselves, both dealing with the same pain because their habits are bad. Once I get both of their habits good, both of them are dealing with clarity. Now they're progressing in their own capacities, right? At their own rates, right? At their various levels. But it requires very simple things. The challenge is those are difficult to execute with all the external variables. So building that self-worth off simple daily habits is the absolute foundational principle for inner peace and clarity.
Would you also say that I think that people might not even give enough? It's almost like, I think you said this at one point. It's almost like that. It's kind of, you didn't say this directly, kind of paraphrasing, but basically that people, it's not that I don't want to hear it, but it almost doesn't sound good enough because it says, "Oh, I got to make this major change, this major big thing." But then, really, I mean, again, James Clear talking about this with compounding, it was like it's like the little things, the fact that you keep showing up every day and you do this, what you would call a trivial. I mean, Jordan Peterson talked about the same thing, right? Like, do your
Yeah.
bed and just do
Yeah.
your bed, and then see what happens. And I think it's like, do you sense that with the people that you work with?
Oh, I know that in my own life, right? And I know that with all the people I work with. It's the elephant's too big to start eating. And so we got to start taking it a bite at a time. And that's that incremental, that Kaizen, Japanese Kaizen, that word. I love it. It's small incremental
Kaizen.
improvements daily, personal and professional. Fast, fantastic word because it's legitimately the, that's, that's why we're here, right? That's why we're here. This small improvements in all areas, or at least that's what keeps us in the game and what keeps us in that progress. It's just like a bodybuilder in the gym lifting weights or a power lifter. He it's like 5 pounds every couple of weeks they add. Small, right? Or if a guy's trying to put on weight, and I'm speaking just in a physical sense, so it's a more clear concept. If a bodybuilder at a high level puts on like 10 pounds of lean muscle in a year, that's like damn good. Think about what that looks like on the scale weekly. Nothing. Like the decimal doesn't even move. But at the end of the year, it's 10 pounds. It's so incremental, but the results looking back are massive. And that's what I try to get people to understand is stop worrying about the results. Do it just for the mindset. The results will come. Do it just because you want to feel better. And that was what happened with me is I was like, I didn't give a fuck about the results. I just wanted to do these things to feel better. That's it.
Right.
And if people just start doing that, they're like, because then it doesn't turn into I have to go to the gym or I have to do this. I tell people like regarding morning process, Dennis, is this isn't what you do. This is who you are. This is emotional and psychological grooming. It's like putting fucking pants on. It's that rudimentary. It's how you get ready for the day. Do you need discipline to put pants on? Not really. Why? Why is it any different? Get up, do this, done, right? And what that does and how it sets you up. But it's a psychological game. It's that you've rooted it so basic that it's not anything. It's just normal procedure, right? And so once you turn things that are what before may have caused some or necessitated some energy to just foundational ways to get ready for the day, right? Everyone brushes their hair, their teeth, or whatever. They don't brush their brain. It's bizarre. It's like the most important thing that we need to get prepped. Nobody does any of it. They wake up and they're on their Instagram, immediately getting blasted and just getting, and that's probably by social design, to be quite honest, right? That's why we got to combat it. How do you combat chaos? Simple, clean systems, organized systems. That's how you combat chaos. Make no mistake, this is orchestrated chaos. And I'm not getting into politics, but there's a lot of external influences that push us and divide us. The only way to combat that is to be very clean and direct and strategic about what we do, especially in the morning, especially the first thing in the day, it sets the tone. So important.
How do you feel about kind of, what happens? I don't know if you know that phrase, but what happens if the dog catches the car? Because I don't know if that phrase makes sense to you, but pretty
I
much
like
for
it.
my,
Yeah.
yeah, some personal story very quickly. I had some health issues in the past. I had some silent jawbone inflammation, and it took me a while to figure that out. It got me arthritis, a bunch of other weird symptoms. And until I found out about it, I was very lucky to find a clinic in Portugal. I was living at the time, a dental clinic. I was doing the hardcore stuff when it came to diet, fasting. I mean, I was living like a monk, right? And because again, I had this bigger why. But then what happened is once I fixed these issues, took time, but basically at one point there was almost like no purpose anymore why I was doing that,
Yeah.
because I was feeling fine. Like I could eat crap, it wouldn't do anything to me. And I'm thinking even these days when I'm feeling, mostly well physically, it's sometimes it's hard to at least for me, to be honest, sometimes to say, okay, like, what am I even doing this for? So it's like
Yeah.
going from reactive to proactive, I guess, almost, and then still
Yeah.
keeping that up. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious, and even it's almost like I like almost miss when I don't have issues. Almost like what am I doing now?
Yeah. 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 That's a very good question, because I'll deal with that with clients. They self actualize to such a good point where their days are good again, right? They're
Yeah,
pretty smooth. Things are working pretty well. Their business is good. Their family's good. And so what happens? That's when I tell people fucking be careful the most, because that's when we backslide. There's nothing stagnant in nature. We're either progressing or regressing. So what do? Well, now you don't need the broad strokes. Now you need more fine tuning, right? And so I go, this is how I apply it in my life. I'll get to a point, things are going pretty smooth, but then I notice my clarity starts to go, right? What? Because I'm not having that friction. Most things are fixed, going well, and I'll
yeah,
notice myself creating my own problem, right? Which is interesting, kind of a thing. So I know, okay, well, what's happening here? Is my morning process sliding? Am I as tight? No. Always the answer is no. I'm like, so now let's lean back into the discomfort a little bit. Let's set the wake up time earlier. Let's make my day more efficient. Let's set that next professional goal. Let's
mm,
shake the tree a little bit. It's personal, professional, physical. Like that's kind of, and some spiritual goals if people want to set those. But reset the goals, reset the goalposts, because dude, Elon Musk isn't done, right? On his professional goals. Like he arrived to some level. Is he done? No.
yeah,
Nobody should be done ever. So if you're like, man, my most of my big problems are done, you're like, am I in as good a shape as I could be? Answer is probably no. Right? For everybody, the answer probably is no. Man, am I really, man, you know what? There's some religious texts I've never read that I probably want to, stay interested, stay
right,
inquisitive. Stay inquisitive. And that I would say, if people live their life with an inquisitive mind more than anything, man, there's an infinite number of things to learn. If someone's ever like stagnating, I go, well, here's another book to read. Fucking learn this shit, right? Here's the Kibbalon. Here's the all these different things, because there's new levels of consciousness to reach, right? We're never going to achieve enlightenment. It doesn't happen, right? And the person who thinks they're enlightened probably isn't. And so
yeah,
there's a that, and so that's that constant. That's that. Just like the person who thinks they're in the best shape in the world definitely isn't. Right? There's all these areas that we need to keep, and most of it is diving back into discomfort, tightening back the dial on ourselves, because when we're peaking, that's when dangerous things happen. Which I'm sure in your life, or most people, it's like that. Man, you're feeling good on this upward trajectory, and then fucking down. And then that self-sabotaging behavior. Now, the self-sabotaging behavior can be minimal, right? You're maybe not making those massive, terrible decisions left and right, but you can self-sabotage in other ways, right? People can self-sabotage themselves just psychologically, or in a relationship, or all these other areas. There's places that they do it. So it's being cognizant of that, and knowing that okay, I need to make things a little bit more uncomfortable for me, because that comfort's the dangerous part.
I love that answer actually, even for me personally. And you're right about Elon. I think even at one point he sold out all of his houses and he moved into like a 50K house because he kind of
Yeah,
reminded himself again of like what he wanted to do. And I think what you're saying there is almost like, okay, like then let's start working on the whys a little bit and see what else is out there. Like you said, like there's infinite things, and maybe let's tackle the next thing. What's it like for you personally though? I'm curious because again, like you've in a way it's almost sound like I don't know if you described going into the Legion as almost like a prison or sort of like to kind of reset yourself sort of.
yeah,
um but still I would imagine that that's probably the ultimate level of friction, the life that you had there. I mean, being on missions. How does it work for you though when you're back home now? Is it because I've heard from some people that were in the military, it's almost like they didn't even know how to adjust into that sort of normal life, and there's no fighting or any of that, just like these little things. But like, how's that
yeah.
been for you personally?
It's been great because also I had two chances at it, right? Not many people have two transitional periods out of the military. I got a chance to do it again. My first one was a failure. Right? My
Mm,
first one was I had too much freedom. And what I did with my too much freedom is make the wrong decision. Right? I was disciplined ish, but in the wrong ways. So when I got out this time, I was damn sure that I was just going to keep my what I was doing the same. Right? My wake up time, my morning process, that rooted foundation didn't change. Most people getting out of the military, and I know this from fact because I deal with a lot of clients, have zero daily structure, zero, right? Their personal daily structure. So when they get out, what do they have? No daily structure. And now they don't have the imposed institutional structure. So they got
mm.
absolutely no structure. When you got to ratchet down the discipline way harder because there's more variables. There's more things going on. There's more distractions. There's more freedom. There's more money. There's all these different things. So we got to keep it simple. Don't change your daily habits. If they're working, keep the daily habits the same. Keep the setting of the goals moving. Keep working towards something. Those are the most important pieces of that.
I guess it's kind of like I've when you hear some pro athletes talk when they retire. I think it's a similar issue. Or even when people retire, right? It's a similar thing with older people when they basically like, exactly that external institutionalized structure that was someone gave to you, and that was sort of you adhere to it, and now you kind of out there on your own. That makes a lot of sense. Are you still afraid of anything in the sense of, I mean, you've seen again probably the worst things. I was watching Saving Private Ryan the other day. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it was on that level, but anyway, it's just like it gives you anxieties just watching it.
Mhm.
How do you dealing with fears? I guess there's still anything in your life?
Oh yeah, I'm afraid of a few things, right? Great white sharks, paralyzation, and failure. Right.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and I'm half joking about some of them, but not really. I Failure is my biggest fear, and it's or not being good enough. Right? It's been a rooted thing from mine. Maybe it's from me as a child having some rooted insecurity, possibly. And so it's like why I have to strive for things because, or maybe it's just that seed of talent, ambition, right? I don't know. It's am I doing enough? Am I being as efficient as possible? Am I leveraging my connections well? Am I, most of it is, am I doing enough? And, can I maintain this pace? Can I maintain this level of creativity? All these things. It's mostly, can I perform and continuously execute, right? And be successful. It's mostly rooted in success. So that's my biggest fear. And so I'm actually glad, but I don't that's if for anybody watching this, everybody's scared. Nobody's not. Every special operator jumping out of a plane, every going into a selection is terrified. Nobody's fearless, right? Anybody that's fearless is an idiot and very dangerous, right? They have a disconnect. Something's going on. So but there's two types of people. There's the person that lets the fear control them, and then there's the person that uses the fear as a catalyst. So if you can use fear as a catalyst, so what am I scared of? Right? I'm scared of failure. So every day I wake up I go, I'm scared of failure. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. Right? Let me do all these pieces. Let me not drop any balls here. Let me continuously down this to make sure to put that fear at bay. Right? So at least I covered down on it today. And make no mistake, it's every day. Right? I always say your piggy bank of self-worth, of managing fear, it goes back to zero every morning. Every morning. And so every day you got to sweep the floor, right? It's never done. So you go back, wake up time, stop, build the self-worth, put your coins in the piggy bank, manage the fear. Okay, push into some things that are uncomfortable. All this is building up every day, and then you restart back to zero. Nothing hangs over from the day before. That's an important concept that I think is very important for everybody to understand and to be reminded of that, man, don't rest on your laurels. Every day is a new day. Every day you got to prove yourself. There's a saying in the SEALs, they say, earn your trident every day. And I like that because nobody cares what you did yesterday. Nobody fucking cares. Yeah, sure, you might have some reputation, but are you good today? Because if you're not, you're no good to us. Have you done what you need to do to earn it, right? And that's a very powerful concept. Like, have you earned your family's love today? People talk about unconditional love, and I don't believe in unconditional love. I think it's horseshit. Everything has condition, right? If you fall off and you don't love yourself, other people are supposed to love you. Fuck that, right? So earn your family, earn the people's love in your life, earn your self-worth, earn your body, earn your job. You got to earn these things every single day. And in that process, kind of going back to what you said, Dennis, what are we doing? We're staying engaged, right? We're never stagnant, right? You're staying engaged. It's this continuous thing. It's not manic though. And it's not this manic, frantic. It's systematic and it's strategic and it's cadence, right? It's a battle rhythm. This is a marathon, absolutely not a sprint.
So, but really also what you're saying, it's kind of always going back to realizing your potential and realizing, if you're slacking a little bit, then you're kind of falling off again. And then that's going to cascade into tapping into bad habits again. And that kind of becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy in the bad sense. Okay. Yeah. The other thing that I was very curious about, and this is more for, again, I don't know if I even told you this. So I work in tech, I work in sales. And so you've talked about, I want to focus a little bit on the entrepreneurial side, because you've remind me if I'm correct, you were a supervisor for a pretty large construction project at one point. You also helped set up I believe a cannabis startup at one point. And you talked about like that you were good at it, even though you didn't have that business experience, because you knew how to run team and get insights.
Yeah.
And that for me was something I was going to ask you about to expand on a little bit, because I wrote an ebook a couple of weeks ago where I was basically making the case that it's like the ultimate currency for me, at least, of selling, of doing business, is insights. And when I was a journalist before, it was the same thing. Like everything stands and falls with insights, and it's the same for everything else. So I'm just curious, like from a SEAL or like military perspective, with your background, if you could expand on that, getting insights in particular, that for me was really fascinating.
Yeah, like getting insights, like getting information. Is that what you're kind of like getting insight? Yeah. So
I mean that was the quote you used, right? You talked about running teams and getting insights.
Yeah.
In the business context.
So I am honest about what I don't know. I think that's that's a talent of mine, or not a talent, but just something I do. I should say is I have no problem admitting when I don't know something, and that allows me to ask questions in an honest fashion, so I get direct information from people. Drop the ego. That's one piece. Is I've had a lot of ego in my life in lots of areas, but one place professionally is I'll be like, I don't know what to do here. Like what, and not necessarily just asking people, right? It's doing. This is something that was taught in the SEAL teams. Is drilled into us. Do everything you can at the lowest level, which meaning your level, until you hit a point where you just cannot get past on your own research, on your own this and that, then ask a question, right? What people default to is if they don't know something, they'll just ask somebody. Well, that's fucking disrespectful for that person's time. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do everything in my capacity. I'll give you an example. On this large development, it was a $750 million project in San Diego. Multiple private developers on tons of properties, from underground trenching to final sales. I mean, putting, what granite countertops, like all the way through. Now, we ran into a methane gas issue. Methane gas in the actual, where they were, doing underground trenching in the ground. So I don't know. I don't know anything about construction. I definitely don't know anything about methane gas, right? Nothing. So, but I'm kind of tasked with, what do we got to do? So what do I do? I go to the engineer. I talk to the engineer. I go to the guy. I say, hey, I do everything, all the research we can on methane gas. And I go to him and I say, hey, what do we need to do here to get this done? Right? What do we need to do here? What do I need to do here to get this done? That type of line of questioning is, what can I do to help you on this, right? And that was, and we got it done, right? He showed me, okay, here's what we're gonna have to do, here's the money we're gonna have to spend, and then I reported that up. But I am inquisitive by nature, so I want to know, I want to be good. That pursuit of excellence is probably the most important piece. That person's quality of life will never exceed it's only matched by their pursuit of excellence. Right? It will be directly proportional. So I'm like, I want to be great at whatever I'm doing. So what does that require? It requires a lot of information. It requires a lot of execution. It requires you doing things you don't know how to do. So, okay, what do I do? Okay, let's find mentorship. Let's find people who are willing to share information. Let's become fully enveloped in whatever you're doing, like obsession, right? In a good way, right? Obsession in a good way. Let's really, really figure this out. And a lot of it is not balance, right? That people are looking for this balance. If you want to be great, you're not going to be balanced. It's not going to happen. Now, is there a better, is there a line? Yes. And I found it and I've crossed it. And so I've learned, but you don't even know what you're capable of until you cross the line. I literally burned in from exhaustion, right? After a year. So it was like this, I pushed the line about as far as you can push it. And so now I know where the line is. But a lot of people just aren't even willing to do that. They're like, oh, I did my 8 and I'm going to go home. Well, yeah. Well, I'm not getting paid, right? A person who does only what they're paid for is never going to get paid for more than what they do, right? So you have got to, I don't care if I'm not getting paid. I was working 5, 6, 7 hours a day extra, no pay, right? But that started to show over months and months and months. And so that's when promotions happen and things. So that's that decision. Do you want to be great or not? If you just want to take your lunch pail and go to your 9 to 5 and come home and fucking cool. But you be clear on what you want. Because if that's not what you want, if that's not aligned with that vision, like people want this big house and they want, all the money and all this stuff, but they don't want the big problems or all the big work that's required. So guess what? You're out of alignment. Now, if you really do want that and you're doing the 9 to 5 with the lunch pail, and you're out of alignment, right? It's not going to just come. So get clear on what you want and what success looks like, because there's some people, like entrepreneurship or, being obsessed isn't for everybody, and that's fine. But as long as you're honest with it and you understand yourself, then you will have, inner peace and clarity because you're honest about who you are. But that's the first piece, is just real, true self-inventory and honest evaluation.
Well, I guess it always goes back to the same thing that we've been talking about today, really with excellence, personal excellence, the systems that you have, the habits, and how you then, and actually defining what is it that you want. If if there's still a delta, what does it take to actually get there? I want to make sure, for wrapping us up, being aware of time here as well, just like, what's next? You've already hinted at that a little bit. Obviously, you're doing the coaching now. From what I've seen, you're becoming a father. Is that correct?
Yeah, man, I do. Yeah. I have a kid on the way, a girl coming in December.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then again, I saw you got engaged. Congrats on that as well. kind of
Yeah.
seems like you're what, almost 40 now, already 40 in that
Yeah.
age?
39, Dennis.
No, yeah. So I was just thinking when I listened to your pod, there's this quote from Schopenhauer, the German philosopher,
Okay.
and he was saying the first 40 years of life provide the text, and then the last 30 years is commentary. And I kind of
Schopenhauer said that, the German
he's yeah
philosopher.
yeah he's a real guy.
Oh,
He's a real one. A little bit too
I like
nihilistic at
that.
one point, but anyway. So I was thinking this the whole time with your with your amazing story and kind of what you're doing now, and I guess it's you kind of laid it out already with going into social, which was also, you said this. I found this impressive. This is you didn't know anything about it. You just started putting yourself out there on YouTube, and you have this very quick following, organic. It
Yeah.
looks like.
Mhm.
And again, it seems to be like using the same recipes over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know. Wrap us up here. What's next for the next couple of years? Family man, husband, and then also being on social media, coaching people. Now, what's next for you? You have a book coming out as well, I saw.
Yeah. That's a very important piece, right? Is getting that completed, and ideally we can work into a book to series type thing that when people are starting to throw away, a book to movie type thing. That will be cool. Maybe some consultation in Hollywood, but mostly what I'm focused on is my clients. It's what I love, right? It's fully involved. I'm on it every day. So that's my first piece. And I'm just going to keep pushing that and getting as many people and myself to a more conscious, evolved state, right? I have to continuously, man, I need to read more philosophy. I have to read more on, the map of consciousness. There's so many other things that I need to learn about universal principles and laws and also apply better in my own life, right? So there's that piece. Then it's also just the structuring of the family piece, right? I have the baby on the way. I'm gonna have to learn. I'll have to adapt that, right? Now I don't have all my own systems and processes, so now I have to really ratchet down that efficiency. That's going to need to improve. But also, what I'll learn in that process will help other people with kids, right? And so that's
Yeah,
that's the other piece is I'll have this evolution for men and women who are working with kids. Okay, here's what I'm finding work because that's my game, right? How do I make this work better and more efficiently for me, for my family, right? And there's financial goals, right? Real estate and things that I'll start getting into. That'll be kind of the next piece that I'll get mentorship with, right? Because I'm all about expedited information. So I'm like, I'll get mentorship and lean on some of my network to learn more and just become that well-rounded individual that's success across the board, man, right? Family, faith, finance, fitness. All those pillars I want 100%. That's my absolute, and I'll never arrive at it. Right? I'll never arrive. I'm never gonna stop. I'll do this to the grave. 1,000%. I'll do this to the grave as far as trying to help people and also build my own pillars thick, man.
yeah. I cannot wait for that book, and I mean, following you, maybe as a final question, what's the way for people to actually get in touch with you if they want to work with you? Obviously, you're on Instagram, but what's the best way to connect with you?
Best way is to go to my website, taylorcavanaugh.com. That contact form goes right to me. I don't outsource or AI anything, right? So if they're going to go on my website and put in the contact form, they'll see what's available or how they can work with me. They're going to contact me directly. So tell me what they need, what they want, what they need help with, where their friction points are, and I'll respond with how I think I can be of assistance. Also on my YouTube, TCAP TV, we dive into some deeper principles, stream of consciousness videos, also some gym footage. We got some big ones coming out that with some big names in the sphere. So that will be cool. And we're also just talking about growth, entrepreneurship, fitness, and just throwing out in the gym. Those are always fun. And obviously my Instagram, TCAB official, Johnny on the spot with those DMs. So contact me, like Dennis. You contact me, I'll contact you. Right? That's how we do it. So I'm in this thing all day, every day. So if somebody's wanting to help and somebody hears that subconscious voice, they're like, I want to start walking, and let's do it.
Man, I'm buzzing. I feel motivated just having talked to you. And again, the same when I was watching your videos. So thank you again so much. If you could stay on for a second just to make sure that we get that file uploaded. And
I will.
yeah, again, thank you so much for doing this. I think this is going to help a lot of people who are going to watch this.
Dennis, I appreciate you, man. You got a good flow too, man. You got a real good cadence. You got a talent for this for sure. I mean that. And everybody, thank you for watching. I trust everyone is going to have a great day.